Perfect. So in the last session, we have spoke about how we'll be building a CROD app, right? So we are just getting started with Hibernate, guys. So I'm not assuming that right now you have a lot of fundamental foundations. As I have said, we are just getting started. So here, right now, today we'll learn about the states of Hibernate. We have different types of states. So whenever you are working in your project, whenever you are calling any of the API methods like save, get, load, save or update, there are a lot of methods, remove, okay? All these methods, whenever you will be calling over a session object, you have to understand the states. Basically, what I'm trying to say that whenever you will be dealing with, objects in Hibernate, you need to understand what are the different states that an object is going through. So understanding the states will make you surely a better developer, because you will be able to catch issues. You will be able to understand issues like, okay, this is the issue coming, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Okay, so instead of Googling, if we have that particular understanding, surely we'll be able to resolve those issues. So first of all, before we getting started with the states of Hibernate, let me collapse everything. Let me open up the project that we have created in the last session. Maybe I'll just drag my project explorer a bit, and here I think inside here we have created our CROD application. Let me one of the application, maybe the create app, where we have basically created one particular song object and try to persist the song object. Okay, let me get started from here. And I think before we get started with our states, different states that we have to deal with in Hibernate, let's first understand one more thing. Okay, I can see, guys, in the line number 23 of this particular create app, we are basically setting the ID by ourselves. We don't have to do that. We have to basically automatically generate the ID. Okay, let me tell you how. Let me go to my SQL workbench. I hope, I think I have truncated your table, that the table that we are basically working with. I think this is the schema that we are working. No, this is another morning batch. Hibernate morning. Okay, so inside the song, so right over here, I think I have truncated the schema, maybe because I have clarifying some of the doubts of yours, and we have inserted few more data, just like it won't look irrelevant to you. That's why I've deleted everything right now. So now what we're supposed to do here, let's go to our CROD app. Let me go to the create application, where we're basically trying to create something. Here you can see in the line number 28, we are trying to do a save operation of the song one. And here we are basically setting up the ID by ourselves. Right now, you have to put one thing in your mind, guys. The ID, the Hibernate deals with the ID. You cannot insert a record without an ID. Of course, you need to have an ID whenever you will be dealing with the JPA. Okay. Now here the ID, if I'll be doing a right click, run as Java application, it will be triggering as insert query, session factory. Is there any issues here? Cannot generate a connection. Oh, all right. In the last session, I think we have changed our connection properties or something just to generate an exception. See, here the password is wrong. Let me remove it. Do a Control S. Go to the create app. Do a right click, run a Java application. This time, this object will be pushed, the ID3 object. Okay, perfect. Now let's go to my SQL workbench. Right over here, do a select. Okay. Now here I have inserted a record to the database, but here one thing you have to keep in mind, that the ID I am only generating. And as I have said, we don't have to take care of the ID generation most of the time. Either we will give that responsibility to our database, to our MySQL database, to generate the ID, or we can generate the ID by ourselves. Okay, we can actually create the ID by ourselves, just like this, or we can give the authority to create the ID to our Hibernate first project, to our framework itself. Okay, here we're using Hibernate, using the Hibernate only. We'll tell Hibernate that, hey Hibernate, generate us a ID or an ID. So how we will be doing that things, let's concentrate on that. So now let's do one thing. First of all, what we supposed to do, we have to go to our song class. Okay, here we are having a primary key. And here ID is our primary key, because that's how we have specified it right over here by marking it with @ID annotation. Right now, if I will be, right now I'm setting this ID by myself right over here inside the create app right here in the line number 23. If I'll comment this out, do a right click, run as Java application. Now you will be saying it will be complained for sure. Oh, it's inserted something. It's inserted the data. Crazy. Let me see. Do run this. Okay, because okay, hold on. How did it inserted the data? Let me just click on this range. Primary key should be not primary should be not null. It should be not null, right? It should be not null. So not null is checked. It should not be 0 anyhow. Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me because it's inserted, or maybe it is okay. This should have worked because you know by default, okay, the way it is working by default, whenever you are basically inserting the record, okay, the ID value will be 0 because you are not setting the ID value. That means inside over here the int default value will be 0. So this is set to 0, and right now with 0 our value has been set. Okay, and right now over here, if we'll go to your database, now with a 0 value, your your record has been inserted. But now the thing is that if you'll be coming over here to create app, and if we'll be running this one more time, of course, again this will be 0, again the ID will be 0, and the same record cannot be inserted with a duplicate primary key, right? The primary key need to be unique. Do a run as Java application. This is where we will have an issue, I believe. Yeah, because duplicate entry 0 for the song primary key, because right now we are not setting up the primary key right over here. So the default primary key for the ID will be 0, of course. And over here in the database, we cannot insert another record with the 0 ID. Okay, now what should we do? Now here we have to take care of creating the ID by ourselves. Now, as I have said, there are many ways we can basically deal with this particular primary key. One of the most efficient way over here, we can go to the song table configuration. We can select this auto incrementation box so that our ID will be incremented every time by 1. So do a apply, close. So right now if we'll go over here, now you can see that you have some table. Here if we'll be just giving some random data, let's say ABC, and singer is XYZ. And if we'll do apply, I have not set the ID, do a apply, close. Do another search. Of course, you can see the ID has been automatically incremented by 1, and I did not have set this particular ID. Now if you want to see, if you want to run the create app one more time, go over there, call Hona Ho, let's say new Sonu Nigam new, just creating some random records. Let me try to save this record, and you will be seeing that the ID will be automatically generated, and I want this particular record to be pushed with the ID number 5. Okay, let's see that whether that thing is happening or not. Do a run, and it will create an insert query. I can say it's created an insert query, push the data to the database. If I'm going to be doing a select and see that our ID has been inserted, and right now the song ID has been assigned to my record, the new record. But here is the challenge. So now the thing is that if you're gonna go to your program, okay, let me create another song. Let's say something. Okay, I'm not getting any song in my mind right now. Okay, let me say ABC. Okay, ABC D. Okay, let me say ABCD, and the artist is YYY. Okay, maybe CCC. Now let me put a breakpoint here in the line number 27. Okay, now listen to this, guys. Very carefully see the code that I have written. I've created a song object right over here, and I'm trying to save this particular song object in the line number 28. Do a right click, debug as Java application. Now you will see what's kind of thing which is going to happen right now. Okay, do a no. Okay, here also we got a breakpoint in the last time. So let me remove all the breakpoints. Only let's have the break. Let me remove everything first. Remove breakpoints. Go back to the song. Go back to the create app. Put a breakpoint here whenever you are beginning the transaction, or maybe here one more. Okay. Do a right click, debug as Java application. Now you see the magic. Okay. Is it executed? I hope so. It's taking a while maybe. Okay. Now, okay. So basically right now, let me create the session object. Okay, I don't want to switch to a no. Okay, now my session object got created. I'll be creating a song object in the line number 21. Do a step over. Now your song object got created, and this is your song object right now. A empty song object ID is by default set to 0 because the integer default value is 0. Now we'll be setting the name and the artist, right? I don't want to go inside that particular method. Hover on that. Now see, artist has been set, the song name has been set, but the ID is 0 because we are not manually setting the ID over here. Now we are trying to begin the transaction, and now we are going to do a save. Okay. Now before we do a save, we are setting this song called CCC. Let me go to the database. Let me do a refresh, and you can see I do not have any song over here called CCC of the singer YYY, right? We do not have that particular entry over here. The moment we're going to be running this line, do a step over, you will be seeing that in your console, nothing happened. There is no query has been fired. Okay. But however on this song 1, you will be seeing the artist YYY right now. The data has been just as usual right over here, but we have executed the line number 28. Now here is the thing, guys. Whenever you are trying to save the song object, okay, you are using a session, and right now the song object, what we are understanding that it should be saved, right? So right now let me go over here, do a refresh. It did not save yet. Right now, let's do another step over. You just see the line that we're executing. Next time, it will make more sense. Now, we'll try to do a commit. It will make a commit. It then generated a query over here, a insert query. Now, hover on the song 1 object. Look at the value that we have, YYY, CCC, but ID is still 0. But if we'll be going to our database right now, we'll be getting our CCC record inserted to our database with an ID called 6. So now this CCC YYY, the data that we have for the song name and the singer with the ID 6 should be mapped to this song 1 object. Everything is set, but the ID is not set right over here. That's the difference. Okay. Now our record got inserted with an incremented primary key. That's fine. Do a resume. Okay. The data has been already set. Now I'll be showing you another thing. Now I'll be going to the song class, and here I'll be putting a generated value column, generated value. And here I'll be giving a strategy, and the strategy I'll be giving here identity. Now here you can see there are many, like auto, sequence, table. In Oracle, a sequence we can use. I don't think MySQL supports sequence. Table has some issues, and MySQL documentation, your Hibernate documentation basically say us not to use this one. It's a controversial statement, but yeah, I'll be telling you why. Auto is something like, Hibernate framework is going to manage the primary key for us. But right now we'll be using identity, because here you are using generation type identity. That means you are saying that, hey framework, my identity key, my primary key is basically generated by the database itself. The primary key generation responsibility has been taken by the database itself. So what you have to do, you just need to know that, okay, the developer here is giving the responsibility of the primary key creation to the database. Okay, so what Hibernate will do, it will do some magic. I'll show you what kind of magic it will be doing. For an example, here in the line number 24, let's do one thing. Let's create a new song. Let's say Kishore Kumar hits cover. Okay, and artist unknown. Okay, so now you just see what is gonna happen. Do a Control S. I'm gonna restart my program. So right now my breakpoint should be stop here in the line number 21. I do have a breakpoint. Now let me construct the song object. Hover on this song object. See, we do not have any value over here. Now let me set some value. Song name, artist I have set. I don't want to go into anywhere. Put over here your breakpoint. See, artist and song name has been set. Okay, perfect. Now we'll be beginning the transaction. Okay, so far we do not have anything in our database, right? the seventh ID has not been generated and our data has not been committed. But the moment I'm going to run this line number 28, see what's going to happen. Do a step over. The moment I'm going to doing a step over here, you will be seeing in my console, there will be a query triggered. If I'll do a step over, okay, still we do not have any query triggered. Okay, crazy. So let me do a step over. Right now it is triggering. Okay, it is triggering. Now it is triggering the query. Perfect. Let's go to over here. Let me do a refresh. We do have this particular data inserted to our database, but hold on. This time I think we should have something over here inside the song1. Hover on this. Oh, that's why the query did not trigger. The ID is still 0, maybe because I have not saved this particular song.java class. That's why the things did not happen. Let me resume this, because whenever you will be doing a save, in this moment only the query will be triggered. You will be seeing, not here in the line number 29. Put all your attention, guys. Be a little conscious right now. See the code flow execution. Okay, go to the song.java. Let me save this particular file, because once I have the generated value over here, I did not save it. Let me go to the create app one more time. Do a control S. Let me cover 2021, and let's say this cover is done by Rahul. Okay, control S to right click, run as Java application. Okay, I should not have run it as a Java application. It will be pushing that particular thing to the database directly. Okay, Kishore, let me say Sonu Nigam hits. Okay, this is done by, let's say, Sandhya. Okay, control S, right click, debug as Java application. Let the flow be over here in the line number 21. I'll be showing you something. Do no. Okay, do a step over, step over, step over. Now your song object has been created with some value. Sandhya and Sonu Nigam hits as the singer name. Right over there, do a step over. Now I'll be hitting a step over, and now you'll be seeing that the query will be triggered. Okay, do a step over, and see the query has been triggered right over here in the line number 28 itself. Now this is the point you guys need to understand. See something over here. Now the song object does got a ID. That means what is happening over here in the line number 28, we're trying to save this song1 object. Okay, now this song1 object with this data has went to my database, and in my database the song1 object has been persisted. Okay, here we are doing a save. That means in this line only it is making a save call to my database and persisting my song1 object. And here in the song1 I do have an ID called 9. Okay, now that means in the database itself a record has been created with the ID called 9. Let me do a refresh, but you won't be seeing that particular data right over here. Why? Because that data has not been committed yet. That is on the cache. That is on the cache memory. So we don't have that 9 over here. But what it is saying that, hey, I have this particular method has already fired a insert query, created a new record in the database. That record has an ID called 9. And whenever you're going to do a commit, at that time, it is going to be actually going to be committed to the database. Let me do a commit right now. Okay. Now, if you want to go over here, do a refresh, you'll be seeing number 9 has been committed right now. And the song1 object right now got an ID. And how does this ID came over here? Because the moment you're going to do a save, right, the ID will be created in the database, and with the record has been inserted, and that ID has been mapped to this particular column, this column. Now that particular ID, whatever database has created, my framework said, okay, you are using identity, right? This particular line does not generate you any value. Do remember that. With this line, we are saying how the value will be generated. Okay, generated value, how the value will be generated. Okay, the value will be generated by the generation type identity. That means the database provider will be giving me the logic how it will be generating, and I don't have to care about that. Whenever the saving will be done, database provider or database vendor, in this case MySQL, will be giving me that particular ID, and I will be only mapping that ID to here. Hopefully it's making sense, right? So now so the ID is right now mapped. Right now basically you can see the ID is mapped right now. Okay, for the mapping we have used generated value. So once the data has been set over here, it will be saved over here. The data will be automatically mapped to this particular guy, right? Now how do you're gonna be trusting me that okay, Vilas, I cannot see anything, right? Now here is the thing, let me tell you that particular things right over here. So let me create a new record here. After that I'll be taking your questions. Let me create a new record here. Let's say song name, for example, Rahul Jain songs. Let's say Rahul Jain all songs, and the artist is Rahul Jain. Copy and paste it. Control S. Right now, let's do a right click, run as debug as Java application. Let's try to debug it. So let's try to execute our code line by line. In the line number 21, our code flow stops. Do a step over, your song1 object is empty. Let's construct the song1 object by all these couple of values. Do a hover on this right now, and right now the artist and the song name has been set. Now we are beginning the transaction, and here in this line, once this line will be executed, a query will be fired, as I have told you. And if you're going to be seeing over here right now, we have the last primary key number 9. Okay. Now, once this save method will be called, this song1 will be persisted in my database and the ID will be assigned. Okay. But it will not be committed. Okay. Now, let me try to do a step over. Okay. Now, look at that. We have a query fired, but we are not able to see any data over here because the data has not been committed. But if you want to see the committed data, maybe we can write set maybe, because right now if you're gonna run this particular query directly, guys, it will not be showing you any data. Okay, but now what I'll be doing, I'll be writing set transaction level and let's say transaction isolation level read value on committed. Okay, committed spelling is incorrect. Okay, committed. Now I'm trying to read all the uncommitted values. So instead of running this line individually, I'll just run this particular couple of lines together. Now you'll be seeing something right over here, because see guys, whenever you're running this query, it is not getting you data, right? Now I want to see the uncommitted data. Run this and now look at that. Okay, number 10 record has been already there inside my database, right? But if you're going to be running only the persisted data, you won't be seeing that particular data. So I'm running the uncommitted data also. I'm reading the uncommitted data also, and here you can see the save method does it work already. The session.save method has already done its work. Right now we are trying to commit it. We are actually committing it right over here, and once the commit has been done, it will be actually persisting the data. But this line has already persisted the data for us. And if you're going to be hover on that, that's why it is getting the ID 10 over here, because the save method pushed the data to the database. Now we got the database generated the ID 10. That ID 10 is right now mapped to this song object right over here, to this ID. Now this ID got the value 10 in this way. I hope it is making sense. Now if you're going to be going to your create app, okay, now for now, if you'll be only running this particular select star from, you won't be getting the data. Let me commit that by running this particular line number 29, do a step over, and this time it will be going over here, run the only select star from, and you'll be getting the number 10 has been committed. Okay, and your song1 is also got a value and ID mapped called 10. Now you can take this song1 and can do whatever you want to do in your project, because right now if you want to track the ID, you have an option to track the ID. And in this case, we have used the identity, the strategy identity right over here as a generated value. Okay, so far, did I bore you enough, or is it making sense? Or tell me guys, what's happening? You are in sync with me? Tell me, talk to me. Otherwise, I'll just run away. Yes. I'm needing some answers from you guys. Yes, no. Already slept?
Yes, Abhilash.
Okay. Any questions? Any questions so far? Depriya, Dina, Khushbu, Kishore, Tarun. Any questions so far?
Abhilash? Do you need to set auto increment in the database, or
I have just missed that.
Yeah, I did set the auto incremented in the database. And right question, maybe you have asked me the question in the right time. If I'll not be setting the auto increment, it will lead me towards issue. If we'll do apply, the database will not be generate any auto incremented value for that right now, because that database will think, okay, the developer is taking care how the key will be increased at that time. So if we'll be going over here to the create app, let's say we want to insert one more value over here, updated, go there, updated, Control S, right click, run as Java application. It will not do that, I believe. Okay. Well, song ID does.
I think I got disconnected. So without this setting auto increment, so that won't work.
That won't work. So what I have done right now, Somik, I have unchecked the AI over here. Right now, whenever I did run the same program, and you see I got a SQL exception, song ID does not have a default value. Understand this issue. The exception only you just take care of. Okay, what is the exception we are getting? We are getting song ID does not have a default value. That means here what we are trying to say in the song.java, here we have the ID. Maybe I did not have save it. Maybe don't have any doubt. Right click, run as Java application. See what is going to happen. Okay, song ID does not have a default value. Okay, that means you are telling to Hibernate that hey Hibernate, our database only going to generate us the primary key, and you just map that particular primary key to this ID once the database has been generating a primary key, but the database is not generating any primary key and you are making fool of Hibernate. Okay, and to solve this, make sure that whenever you are getting this issue does not have a default value, the ID, then make sure your auto incrementation is checked, right? Apply, close, go over there. It will work like a charm. Do a right click, run as Java application. This should work. If it will not work, I'll run away. Okay, anyhow, it's working. So let me run this. We should have that particular things over here. Making sense, Somik?
Yeah, and here the main difference is that whenever we are using that generated value annotation, so query will be fired at the time of save.
Exactly, and we should do that only. We should be always give. We see, Somik, for any of the project we are working, we should have some logic, like how we'll be creating the primary key, isn't it? Whether the primary key will be creating like after 1 it will be 3, then 6, then 9, then 15. Either you will be generating in a sequence. Maybe the sequence code you are writing in the database side, so how basically the primary key will be generated, that logic you have to write somewhere. Either you'll be writing that in the database side, or you'll be writing that in your code end, or you'll be setting the primary key by yourself, or you'll be telling the Hibernate that hey, my database only creating the primary key for me by making it know like how it is creating the primary key, how this ID value Hibernate will get. Well, make sure that it depends on the MySQL in this case, because here we are using auto incrementation. There are also many. That is called auto. This auto one is having some bug. The auto one means the Hibernate only will be generating the primary key, but this will not work. And I will be telling you how to fix this one. In this way, you are telling Hibernate that hey Hibernate, my database is not generating the ID. Okay, in the database, maybe you can go to here and can uncheck this box. In this way, Hibernate is saying, okay, the developer want me to keep track of the identity key, and it want me to, generate the ID one after one. Let's say it is 10, next time it will be 11, 12, 13, 14. This will be done by Hibernate itself, the framework itself, by the auto. But whenever you'll be working with auto, it will not work, I think. It will just give you a exception, and that's basically a bug. And you have to understand how Hibernate works to understand that particular bug. You can see that Hibernate is trying to maintain a table called Hibernate sequence, and from there it is basically trying to fetch the next value, but it is saying that the sequence table does not exist because Hibernate internally uses a sequence table where it tracks the primary key. But right now we do not have it, and I don't want to get into that. Maybe after a couple of sessions I'll be solving this issue. For now, we'll be going with identity only right over here. Okay. So the other thing that we have, apart from auto and identity, sequence, MySQL does not support sequence. In Oracle, we can talk about sequence, like, if you want to generate the ID in some sequence. Table is another one. Table is also having bug. They have some Jira tickets for the table strategy for the generated value in the Hibernate 5. So most of the time, either you will be going with auto or identity or sequence. I'll be telling you how to fix the auto one, but auto one still has some performance related issue. Okay, identity is also not that convenience, and because maybe sometime it is go with the performance issue as well, but most of the time we use this one in our project, or we use sequence in our project. Go with this one right now. Let's give the primary key generation capacity to our database for now, and then we will understand later once we have some more depth understanding about Hibernate. Okay, before we proceed further, just tell me, guys, we are on the same page. I will be telling you something else. Maybe we'll have some fun right now. We are on the same page. Chaitanya, hi. After a long time. Okay, no night shift? No night shift, huh? Yesterday? Okay. All right. Okay. Supriya, we are good. Yeah.
Generate type dot identity or sequence.
Here we have used generated type identity right now. Sorry, where we are. It's identity right now. Okay. Identity means we are giving the responsibility to our database. Okay. We made the auto incrementation check, and let's go with that only. Okay. Later we'll come back and we'll be learning about the rest of the strategy types that we have. Making sense, Chaitanya?
I joined just now. When I joined, you used it as sequence. That's the reason.
Oh, okay. Maybe I have not used sequence. I'm just going with identity, Chaitanya. Okay. All right. So now let's go a little more in depth, guys. Okay. Let's try to understand the framework a little bit more. I am not going to do any code. Just see over here. Let's try to understand what's going to happen. Okay. Let's try to understand line by line. I'm going to be telling you about some states right now. And I just build a slide for you. Okay, look at the slide. Okay, everyone please be on mute. I'll be telling you this thing, and then we will be taking it forward later. Now see that, guys. Everyone please be on mute. I'm hearing some background noise. So Tarun, you have a question? Tarun, you there? Okay. Yeah, anytime please feel free to ask me questions, Tarun. Please stop me there wherever you are having any issues.
Yes.
Okay, so now let's try to understand this bunch of code. I think you guys are smart enough to understand this right now. Okay, so here we have a JVM. You can think like this is your JVM. This is your database, right? So in the first line, you are creating the session factory instance. And you know that, how the session factory instance will be created is basically a bunch of settings we are doing with the session factory and creating the main factory instance from where we'll be getting our session objects. Now, once the session factory object created, we are opening the session. And whenever we are opening the session, that does mean that the session object will be created, and session means that's one active connections to the database. For an example, whenever I will be executing this line, once this line will be executed, the session object will be created. I made it square type so that you will be understanding, just like session can hold objects. Just treat it like a context, guys. It's a context. It is a container which is going to contain objects, just like your application context if you know Spring. Okay. So if you're creating a song object right over here, okay, now by the time the session object got created, okay, forget about this line. My code flow is in this line. That means this line got executed. Now, once this line got executed, your session object got created. That means you have one active connection to your database. Now you're creating your song object. That means in your JVM, in the memory, one song, one object got created. And you are also setting the value, right? Let's say Kal Ho Na Ho is the song name, and Sonu Nigam is the singer name. These are the value that you have filled in with this particular song object, right? Song one object. Now, here is the point to understand, guys. Now, this song one object is just lying in the memory, okay? And there is no references has been assigned to the song one. Now, the song one object is not getting used. We have just declared it, okay? It's just lying in the memory. Maybe if the garbage collector will see it for the long time, it will grab this out. But now, by the time it is there, which is not a reference to the session object, it is just lying over there as a single object. This is called a transient state. Do you know the English meaning of transient? I think that means we stay there for less time or something. I mean, which will not be staying there for a longer time. That means transient. That means we just have created the object, and thus the object is not managed by the session. Okay, so this state is called transient. In the transient state, session object is not managing the song object. But right now we are beginning the transaction. Let me execute that line, and in this line, when the save line will be executed, this line here, we are doing what? Session.save. We are calling the save method of this session API, and we are passing in our song1 object, which is this object right over here. And now we are doing session.save of song1. When this line will be executed, we are assigning the song1 object to our session object, just like this. When this line will be executed, this object will be moved to the session object. Now you can see now the session object is holding the song1 object. And I have told you just now, right? When the session object is doing a save or holding that one, if the session is holding that object, that means that, understand this line, when the session is holding this particular object, that means that this object has been persisted to my database, or my session does know this object represents to which row in the database or in the table. Okay, in this case, we are basically inserting this particular object to the song class, or sorry, to the song table, and this object will be persisted to the database, and the database will be assigning us an ID. Now the session is knowing that this particular object is referring to that particular row or that particular row in the table in that specific database. My session know the state of this object. Okay, so right now my session is managing this particular object. The moment we do session.save, the object is basically saved to the database, and we call this as a persistent state. I have told you, right? Whenever we use save, this will be basically creating an insert query and inserting the data to the database, and the database generating an ID, and the ID is given back to this particular object, and the framework is mapping the ID by pasting it from the database, and over here we do have every data about that particular record right now. Okay, and the session is right now managing that object, and that's what we call a persistent state. Okay, the object state is persistent right now. Okay, now once the transaction will be commit, you know that particular object will be exactly committed to the database till this line it is on the cache memory. Okay, and now once you're gonna be doing a close, once this line got executed, then what will happen? Then we are basically destroying the session object. We are closing the session object. That means this object will be destroyed, and this connection also will be gone. I have not made that particular animation. That this link also will be dropped, guys. Will not have this link. And now look at this. Once the session object is basically got dropped, once you destroy the session object by writing this line, this object is right now again, it is single, right? Nobody is maintaining this object, or no session is managing this object. And when the object is not managed by session, okay, which was used to manage before, now this what we call a detached state, right? Because this object was managed by the session previously, but right now as we are closing the session got destroyed, and the object again came to a detached state, right? That's the complete fundamental. Let's try to do this one more time. First of all, the session factory will be created. The session will be created. The session, when that object will be created, will have one active connection to the database. We're constructing the song object, and then we are setting the value of the song. And here our song object filled with value. Now we are beginning the transaction. And before we begin the transaction, this particular object is not managed by any session. This is just a standalone object, and this is what we call a transient state in Hibernate, or the object song1 is in transient state. Now that object will be saved by the session, and whenever the object will be saved by the session, basically this object will be moved to the session, the object will be saved to the database, or will be persisted to the database will be assigned as an ID, and now this object is called persistent state, or this object is right now persisted to the database. Okay, and now once you want to close the session and once this line executes, your session object will be destroyed and this object is no longer managed by the session one more time, and this is why we call this is in detached state. Okay, is it making sense? Hey. Is it making sense? Okay,
it's clear.
Okay, can I get some more yes, no? Can I get some more no? Yes, Rija, no? Yeah, Lavanya. Yes.
I understood the transient and detached. I missed, like, I didn't understand the persistent state of
Yeah.
object.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Lavanya, just tell me one thing. Whenever we do save, whenever in the code, imagine, whenever we do run this line, what happens? Whenever we run this line, what happens? It's creating us a query, right? It is hitting the database, right? You understand that part, right, yeah. Lavanya? So basically, whenever it is this line getting executed, the object is getting persisted, isn't it? A query has been fired by Hibernate and the object is getting persisted into my database, right? And once the object is persisted, the session is basically managing that object. Okay, and that's why we call as the persistence mechanism, or as this object is basically this line does not make will be contradict later, but now we can understand as we are persisting this object to the database, this is why we call as a persistent state. And you see the slide one more time, go to Keynote, run this. So first of all, right over here, the session created, we got a connection, we have an object, this is in transient state, and it also filled with value is in transient state. And now the moment we'll be doing save, the object we are doing session.save. Lavanya, see that session.save, that means we are giving this song1 object to session. Okay, now this object will be moving to the session, okay, because the session is right now managing it. And remember this thing, guys, whenever you are doing update, delete, get, save, whatever you're gonna do, if an object is managed by your session, that means it knows which is the record that you are specifically dealing with your table. And in this case, as this line basically saving the object to the database is giving the ID to this guy, okay, ID is 1. Now the session knows that, okay, this record with this particular object tends to, inside the song table, I have a record for this, I have a row for this in the database. So right now both my framework and in my ORM, both my framework and my DB are in sync. And now my session is managing this object. But how long? Once I close the session, it is in persistent state right now because the session is managing it. Once the close will happen, the session object will be destroyed. And this will become a detached state because it used to be managed by the session previously. Right now it's not. Making sense, Lavanya?
Yeah, Vilash. So the difference of transient and detached is we would be having an ID in this case.
Exactly. Yeah. Mark that word. Yeah, that is the perfect line if you're going to be saying. I'm not, emphasizing that line right now because maybe we'll be seeing some more example. But yes, if you are understanding that, that's fine. Whenever any object will be managed by session means it should have an identifier. Okay, whether we are doing a save or update or get or whatever. For an example, Lavanya, if you're going to be going to your previous program called read app, okay, here we are doing a get. Here we are doing a get right now, right? The moment you're going to be doing a get, this number 1 record will be retrieved. Okay, will be retrieved. Now this object will be retrieved and will be there inside the session object. Okay, imagine like this. Okay. Can imagine just like this. Can I copy this slide? And now you can imagine, okay, there is no transient detached. Let me move this stuff to here. Okay, to here, just like this. Let me zoom it a bit. Can I zoom it? Okay, can you guys see this? Okay, hold on. Can you guys see this one? Okay. Yeah, now you see, for an example, whenever you are doing a load, okay, forget about save. Whenever you are doing a load, you are doing session.get or session.load, and you are asking that, hey, get me the first object. Get me the first object right over here. Okay, get me the first record of the song table. Okay, that's what you are saying over here, and it is giving you the song. Now you're doing session.get. That means once this song object got retrieved from the database, of course it will have all the information about this one. For an example, if I'll be doing, can I do Control S to this? Right click, run a Java application. It will be retrieving the number 1 object. Okay, now you see it is retrieving the number 1 object. Put a breakpoint over here. On the line number 19, do a right click, debug and Java application. Let the flow be over here in the line number 19. Okay, do a no. Now the moment you're going to be doing step over here, okay, look at that. A query has been fired. Hover on this and look at that. The ID is 1. Now the session.get. Now the session is managing this particular object whose ID is 1. In database, if you're going to be saying we are doing a select statement, and then we are fetching the first record, this record, right? This record we got over here, the first record, Sonu Nigam call hona ho. Look at that, Sonu Nigam call hona ho. Now this object is managed by session, just right over here. Look at that. Now we are doing like this. Previously, now we can think like this is one arrow. Now we are trying to get, right? Can I move it a little bit? I hope you guys can understand, but still, pomade, arrange, if I will flip it, okay, just like this. We're trying to do a get, okay, we're getting the data from the database, and once we get the data, we got this data right now, the session is managing this data. Now this is also in persistent state. Even though we're using get, that means also this object is inside the persistent state, because the session is managing this object right now. The session is holding this object right now. If you're going to be doing, if you're going to do resume this right now, if you'll be doing, I'll be showing you one thing. This object right now, let's say session dot contains. You can see there is a method called contains. Put this song object right over here inside the contains. Now this will give you true or false if the object is managed by your session. Look at that, just like this. Okay, this will give you a true or false. I'm doing a sys out. Let's say I'm also giving a log here. Song object managed by session. Okay, let's say does song object, that will sound better. Does song object managed by session dot contains of song. That means this session that we are opening in the line number 16 is this session managing the song object, this song object. Right now, of course, here we are doing a get. Now the session object is holding this song object, because once you do session.get and once this object will be retrieved, that song object will be managed by your session, just like this. Okay, and now the session know the ID of that. Session know this object represents to which column in which table, right? Now if we want to see over this will give you true. Run this. See, it is giving you true, right? I could have given space here and a dash over here. Control S dash. Run this. It will give you true, right? Now let's do one thing. Let's close the session. Session dot close. Okay, once you close this, okay, now copy this line one more time, Control C, go over there, paste it one more time. Okay, once the session is closed, session dot contains of song. Now this session, is it containing the song object? Now here we have closed the session. Let's see what's going to happen right now in this line number 26. Okay, now we are saying entity manager is closed. Okay, now already we have closed that object. Okay, that means the session only got closed. That means that session is not holding any objects, because we have closed that object. Once the object is closed, you cannot check anything. You cannot do session.contains and one more time. If I want, okay, I'll tell you one more thing, guys. I have told you one thing. In this slide, I have told you one thing, that once the session is closed, then this particular block will be destroyed. I have told you, no? This particular block will go away once this line will be executed. Session.close means the session will be destroyed. That object will go away and only the object will be there. Okay. Now, I can also, without closing it, I can also manually detach the object from session, just like this. Instead of closing it, now here the session is having the song object, right? I can do session dot remove or session dot detach. Okay, if I'll do session dot detach and I want to detach this song object right over here, now you'll see some magic. To Control S. Now what I'm trying to do, understand this. Here I'm trying to do a get, and now I'm getting my song object. That means my session is holding that song object right now. And in this case, session.contain subsong, obviously session is holding that object, so it will be true here. But the moment I'm going to do this one, session.detach of song, that means this song object I'm detaching from the session. Now from the session itself, the song will be removed. Okay, and after that, if I'll be doing session.contain subsong, this song object is right now in detached state or in removed state or whatever you're going to say that. Application, this time it will not give me any exception. Look at that. This is false right now. This is true over here. This line is false. This line is false. Okay, and this line is true. Okay, because here the session is managing the song object, this object, but here I'm detaching the song object in this line. Okay, so here again, whenever I'm asking to have my framework that, hey session, are you containing the song object, the session is saying no, because in the line number 26 you have detached it. Here only you have detached it. Okay, you have removed that song object from DB. Oh, sorry, from session. Making sense, Srija? Oh, sorry, Lavanya, this thing?
Yeah, Abhinav.
Okay, but nice question. Otherwise, I would not have given this example. Thank you.
Abhilash, in that case, actually, session is alive, but we are just
Yes,
destroying the
correct,
object.
correct. Yes, we are not destroying the session in that case. The session is there because if you are doing close only, that is getting destroyed. If you are not going to do close, it will not. I mean, it will work perfectly fine. Let me do that one more time. The slide, print it in your brain, how the code flow is going through. This will save you a lot of time, guys. Put all your efforts to understand this. Now, in this case, if you will not be doing a close, if this line I will not execute, instead of that, here I'm going to say session dot detach of song 1. Then this song 1 object will be detached from the session, but the session will not be destroyed. Is it making sense? If you will be doing session dot close, then this will be destroyed. This will be destroyed. Okay. But we don't want to destroy the session. Let the session be there, but I'll be just removing this object. I don't want that particular object to be maintained by my session. In that case, you can do this detach one. I think this is a Hibernate method only. Detach. Okay, this is coming from Java extract persistence. This is a persistence method. For Hibernate, I think there is a method called evict. Evict also will do the same work as a detach. Here also you can put the song object and the song object will be detached. Either you can use evict or you can use detach to detach a song object from the session. This query doesn't look good, isn't it, guys? I just want to see the query also. See here we are fetching the data here, right, in the line number 19. So it is firing a query. If you want to format this query, maybe you can go to the cfg.xml and let's format that query, and you know that where the properties are available. It is available inside the available settings. Let's go there. I think we have a property here called format. Where is that? Yeah, this is this one. Copy this format, enable formatting of SQL logged in the console. I want to format this SQL so that it will look better. Go to cfg.xml, open one more property, paste it, make this format SQL to true. Okay, Control S. Go there. Sorry, where I was, read up. Go there, run this. This time you'll see the query will be a bit formatted and will be readable, just like this. Okay, we can understand it is making a select from this table. This is the alias and the song is this one. Okay, but don't do this in your production app. Your client will kill you. Okay, because logging the query is not good. Cool. That's it, guys. I'm gonna ask you a question, or you're gonna be asking me a question, Akhil?
I just one question, like, do
yes.
you need to open the transaction for the read operation as well?
Yes. So good question. See, Akhil, if you are not managing the transaction for the read operation, okay, for an example, Here I have a read app, right? Let me comment. Okay, for an example, here I am not doing the session begin transaction. Let me comment out this code also. There are so many code over here. Maybe I'll just copy this read app. Control C, go there, Control B, read app 2. Let me go to the read app 2, and here let me just remove everything. Let me remove everything. Right over here, Control S, right? This thing will also work. Run as Java application. Okay, I will not be getting any exception. Do a out. I'm not begin the transaction. You can see that it is firing the query in the console. Do a Control S, run this. I'll be getting my song object back right over here. Okay, see, I got my song object back. Yeah, we don't have to manage the transaction for this, but you have to understand one thing. If you are, see, okay, think about a scenario. Okay, you are selling some product. Okay, let's say me, I'm selling some courses. Okay, let's say Somik is coming to me and saying, hey Vilas, I want to check out that particular course. So I said Somik what? Okay, Somik, go to the website, click on this link, and then you'll have a checkout page. Do a checkout, and once you do the checkout, you'll have an invoice. Send me that invoice. Okay, for a proof. Okay, so that I can say that, okay, Somik is right now enrolled, and let's go for that. Now think about that scenario. Somik is trying to enroll for a course. Okay, he is trying to hit on that enroll button. In that case, in my batch, let's say there are 10 seats available. Okay, now Somik is one who is taking one slot. Okay, now as he is taking one slot, I have to do what? From my batch, I have to decrease my slot as one. And I have to create an invoice for Somik, and then I can say the enrollment has been done, so that Somik can give me the invoice. Now you can think about this. Think about this scenario. Okay. Now Somik is trying to, enroll. The batch slot has been removed or reduced by one as he is trying to enroll, but the invoice has not been generated. Okay. Think about that scenario. So the first one, let's say you are doing something, you are not putting it inside the transaction. The second one, imagine think like, the invoice is not getting generated, but the first operation happened properly. In this case, if you are not using transaction, then the entire bunch of lines you are not putting inside the transaction. So obviously you will be messed up. The batch slot will be removed or reduced by one, but the invoice will not be generated, right? But if you are putting everything inside one transaction only, we have to make sure if the slot will be reduced by one and if the invoice will be generated, then only we'll be considering it as one transaction. Otherwise, if the invoice generated but the batch slot not has been reduced by one, or if the batch slot reduced by one but the invoice not generated, then that is not called a transaction. So why I'm giving you this example, even for the get operation, make sure to put it inside the transaction, whatever the operation that you are doing. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I know that we have already discussed that we don't need a transaction for this, but yeah, maintain everything inside one transaction only so that it will not create you any unnecessary kind of situation that you are not desiring for. Cool. Good question. Okay, next time I'll be only asking you a question, okay? I got scared when you asked me questions. Right now you know so much thing. I don't know what you're gonna ask me. Okay. Priya, Priya, how? Everything good? Any questions from your end? Priya, there?
Yes. No, I'm not.
Okay. Okay.
Avilas, can you go back to the slide once more time?
Okay. Sit per. Do you want me to,
No. No need to go through. So I'm just asking that ID. So that is a kind of hash code that maintained by session, or that is ID for that object?
ID for that object. ID for that object. Whatever the ID will be generated by your database, same ID only the session will have.
Okay.
In that way, the session knows. Like, how the session will know that, okay, this object belongs to which column, or this object belongs to which row in your database, right? For an example, here you are doing save. Okay, the object will be saved, but how the session will know that this object belongs to which record? Once it's got the ID only, it will understand, okay, I have a song1 object. That song1 object is actually belongs to, or is actually tends to this record, because this has the ID 1. Okay, so this ID only the session will be tracking. Okay,
I thought that different ID.
No hash code. Yeah,
And Abhilash, can you please go through the implementation of that default method that save and begin transaction? Because we need to understand the query where it is getting
Yes, don't worry. We'll be covering. I'm knowingly not making it complicated. See, I did not tell you even the other couple of 2 or 3 things that we have over here. I'll be also telling you these things. Don't worry, Somik, we'll be coming back.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Any other questions, guys? You guys are good? Kushbu, you are not asking anything these days. Kushbu there or not? Dina, you there?
Abhilash, I have a question.
Yes, Riza.
Abhilash, so soon after the object is in detached state, so it will be saved to database, or session is open only we are saving to
No, saving will be happen only once you do a commit. Saving will happen only once you do a commit. For an example here. Okay, once you close it, here only we are close it. That means from here only the object will be going to the detached state. Isn't it? Imagine this is the object.
Okay.
This is in.
While the session is open only.
Okay. Exactly. So see, in the line number 21, this is a fresh object. This is in transient. Line number 28, the object is maintained by the session. This is changed to persistent. Okay, in line number 33, we are closing the session. That means this object is right now not managed by any session. This is went to detached. Making sense, Srija?
Yeah, yes.
Just see the.
So it means if we are closing this session, it means we are not disconnecting the connection with database. Just that session is closed.
That particular session, that particular connection to the database is closed. Okay, maybe with the session factory you can have many sessions, right? But this session only you are closing. This session that you are opening, that only you are closing, right? Either you can make this object detached state by closing the connection, or by writing the detached method manually if you don't want to close the connection. Okay.
Got it. So it means we can use one session only throughout the.
No. You can also use many sessions. For an example, this session is closed. I can do again session factory dot session sorry.
No, we can use, but I'm saying, can we use one also?
Yeah, we can use one also, but we can have many session. We can create many sessions. As I have said, session is for one client. For you is one client for one session. For me, it is one session. Every time a new client will try to log into your application, because right now we are using standalone application. But think about websites. Okay, for that, for each client, you will be needing one session. Okay, isn't it? For Sriza, I'll be giving one session. So that Sriza will be done, the session will be closed, right? So session, just think like it's like a connection, a active connection to the database. Also with some extra bit of functionality that we are discussing right over here. Okay, it does few things, and maybe in next few classes we will be having some more understanding on that, Sriza.
Okay, bless.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Can we wrap up? Yes.
Abhilash, in the line number 28, the song 1 will be in persistent state, no, Abhilash?
Correct.
Again, I can modify the song 1 with any updated value, and I can commit it in the same session, no?
Yes, you can do that. Okay. That one will be synced tomorrow. How that particular process happens. Exactly same thing will be synced tomorrow with some more new slides. This is the foundation. From tomorrow one, it will be a little more advanced.
Okay,
yeah. We'll be seeing how the value will be changing and manipulating the object a little more.
Sure, Abhilash.
Any other questions? Kishore, you are not asking me anything. Yeah, Chaitanya.
You told the read operations also we need to keep in between the transaction, right?
Yes.
So if any exception occurs, it will be rolled back.
Exactly. The rolling back, we are not doing it. So basically what you have to do, good question. So basically what you have to do, make sure instead of doing the transaction right like this, no, Chaitanya, you can do, first of all, take this guy, Control X to here. Okay. Do Control 1, begin transaction. Begin transaction. Okay. Hold on. Why? Session. Okay, I have not created the session object here. Session is here, right? Paste it. Do Control 1, assign statement, transaction. Let's say just like this. Okay, now do one thing, Control C this. Here only you are doing save, okay, or you can put everything inside a try block, just like this, and maybe like this, and wrap this up like this. Okay, make it finally like this, and you know the finally will be by default it will be executed, right? So inside the trans you are creating over here, take the trans over here. While saving, do trans dot begin, okay, and right over here do trans dot commit, okay, and here the transaction is beginning and here we are committing. In the finally block, just do here we are committing the transaction. If any exception is occurring, if first of all just do if any operation is occurring, just do trans dot sorry not in the finally, maybe in the catch block we can put, because finally will be for sure it will be executed. Put it into the catch block. If any exception is occurring, do trans dot rollback. That's it. Okay, so if exception occurs here in the save, okay, we are rolling it back. Okay, so making sense, Chaitanya, what I'm trying to do? Maybe we can improve this code, just giving you an idea. Yeah, we're defining the transaction. Yeah, we also have a rollback.
Here, trans.begin is not needed, right? Anyway, session.begin transaction.
Yeah, no, not needed, because we are using this transaction over here only. That's why I've defined here only, right? We're just using that particular reference to do a commit. So make sure to do this: begin, save, commit. If any exception is occurring, roll back. Okay.
Yes, Abhilash. And another doubt was this session.save is not needed, right? Yesterday you told.
Yes, it is not needed, but in this case it is needed. I'll be telling you that tomorrow. The question that Lavanya asked and your question, tomorrow I'll be explaining very detailing. Okay, how that persistence I'll be talking about the persistence context a little bit. And persistence context, whenever somebody say, don't freak out. Persistence context means your session only. There are two things: Hibernate and JPA. Hibernate is one thing, JPA is one thing. JPA is the specification given by Oracle. Hibernate is a vendor. MyBetis is a vendor. Eclipse Link is a vendor. So in JPA world, session is known as persistence context, right? Tomorrow we'll be discussing that, how those things happens.
Another one, Abhilash, can you go to database?
Go to database, yes.
Here, after one, it generated 3, right? Maybe because of commit.
No. Basically, I have done some. Maybe it was not there previously. Maybe you joined late. I just randomly manually added this 3. Okay. Maybe previously there was some data here or something. Don't worry about that. Okay. Any other questions? Good questions, Chaitanya. Any other questions? Liking your questions a lot. Nagasri, Praveen, you're good. Any questions? Rahul, Sonali, Srinivas, sir, you have any questions?
No, sir. No, relax.
Okay, good. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, guys, for joining. Tomorrow, let's meet, and we will keep going. Okay, we'll make the things more and more advanced. Let me stop the recording from my.
Abhilash,
Yes.
One more. Actually, yesterday I picked you, right? In Maven, you told Hibernate